Hello everyone, this is ArtisanTony, and to let you know I'm trying out a new software called TinyTake because my previous software was not compatible with Windows 8. Since I've got my new computer, I've had to change, so maybe a few little glitches here as I get started, but we'll make it through. The video I'm making today is for a viewer who asked me if I could look at showing him some details about an existing deck that he had that he wanted to change out to a concrete slab. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a mock-up house here, and in SketchUp Pro 2015, which is what I'm using, you can see this little rectangular tool here. It's pretty neat. You can just kind of drag it out here, and then down in the bottom left hand corner you'll see a box that has dimensions, and I can type those dimensions in instead of freehanding it. So I'm just going to make it 24 feet by 12 feet for now. That's pretty good, just to show an example. And let me get rid of this guy, Farmer Brown, over here. And then SketchUp Pro also has this cool push-pull tool. You can grab it and pull your volume up, and I'm just going to make it 12 feet. Again, you can stop anywhere after you pull it up and then enter the actual dimension you want. So there we have a nice little volume that will represent his house. The other kind of cool tool that SketchUp has is a little ruler that you can dimension with or make these construction lines. You can see it's sort of a dash line. And so he said his deck was about 30 inches off the ground. So I'm going to come up 30 inches, and then I'm going to just draw a line. I'm going to take my pencil tool here. One thing about SketchUp is that it's very intuitive. It's pretty cool. You see it snapping there to points, and you'll see some other cool things as we go along. So I'm just going to delete that construction line there. So now what I think I'll do is I'm just going to start as if I was building this thing. It's what I normally do when I'm designing things, and I start with my footings. So I'm just going to draw this free-handed now. You can see here that depending on the color, initially, I don't know if you can see the green there, but that means I'm on that green axis there. And since you're working in 3D, it's nice to have handy indicators like that. And you can see there it says on green axis. So I'm just going to come out 10 feet for now. Then I'm going to go down on the red axis. And the other thing you can do is hold the shift key, and it will, no matter how I move my cursor, it will stay on the axis you're currently on. So then I'm just going to run it down, and I'm going to point to that corner, and that's where it will stop. And you can see that's pretty cool. So that's the outline of my concrete pad, actually the concrete block foundation. Now, to make a concrete block foundation against this existing home, all I need is 3 sides here. So what I'm going to do is, to make this easy, there's this offset tool right here, and you just grab that and you can pull it in. Again, just pull it in some random amount, but down here at the bottom you can type 8 inches, and it will just offset at 8 inches. So now I can delete that back line, and then I can continue these lines on over to the house. And then what I can do is pull that up to here. Again, this porch is 30 inches, so we'll allow 4 inches. So we'll make this 26 inches. So I'm just going to type in 26, and you can see how it lowered it back down after I entered the value. So there's our concrete block wall already that we have. And for a footing, you would typically, if you have a good hard ground like we have in Tennessee, where we have this chert, it's basically a clayish soil with lots of rock in it. We complain about it, but it's great for building. We would typically, I kind of tend to overkill a little bit. And we would typically use a 24-inch wide foundation, and you can get by with about 8 inches deep, but I like to make it a foot deep because that's just how we roll. Okay, so for a footing, I'm just going to come over here, and I'm going to come out 8 inches. I'm going to come out here. I'm going to lock that axis, lock it to there, to that corner. Then I'm going to come out 8 inches more. I'm going to go out of here, lock that axis. I'm going to go out 8 inches more. I think you can see where I'm going with this. And I'm doing this kind of this way on purpose to show you how easy this can be if you want it to be. And so now I'm going to take this around back to here. Well, I'm going to make the footing, we'll just go ahead and make it a foot deep. It could be 8 inches if you have the proper soil types or whatever, but I'm going to make that 12 on my drawing because I like to make them 12. I just like them thick. So there's a footing, and you can see it's the continuous the full width, and we don't want that. So what we want it to be is 24 inches wide. So we'll take our offset tool and we'll come in 24, and we'll continue these lines on over, and we'll get rid of that one. Go down here and continue this line on over, and get rid of that one and that one, and we'll take our push-pull tool and we'll push that up to where it touches the face of the other one, and that'll just zap it. It'll get rid of it. It's kind of like hitting it with antimatter. So we have this 8-inch concrete block wall that goes around, and we also have our 12-inch thick, and it can be 8 inches. I just like them 12 by 24 inches wide footing under here, and that would have 2 pieces of 3/8, or if you're like me, 1/2-inch rebar running through it all the way around. And then of course this would just be 8-inch concrete block. So then what I'm going to do is I would fill this up with gravel all the way to the top of here. And what we'll do is we'll just represent this. I'll just draw in that, and we can say that's gravel. I'm just going to pull this area here out, that little section there, as if it were the concrete slab, and then basically you pull that out like that. But then you'd want to, have it overhang some. Let's call it 1.5 inches, and we'll pull the front out 1.5 inches. And you may just want to make it 1 inch or so. You just want it to hang over a little. Oops, I didn't mean to grab that, but I need to put. Let's see. It's funny because it looks like there's a line there, but there's not. So pull that out, inch 1.5. There we go. Okay, so these are the basic components. What you want to do now is to think about your details. And so one thing I want to do here too is just add some ground, add some earth. So I'm just going to kind of start on this. Let's see, how am I going to do this? Start out here, just come around here on this axis, that way, that way. I'm going to hold my shift button down, and then I'm going to line it up with that to make it stop there, and then come down here. Now I've got some ground that I'm dealing with, just to give me an idea of what that looks like. So you may be saying, well, this is cool, but really that doesn't tell me how to build it. I mean, it's an idea, but where you go from here is the details. you can go to 3D Warehouse in SketchUp. This is the coolest thing about SketchUp. Just everybody in the world has shared their models, and you can download them into your model. So I'm hoping what I'm going to get here is like Welded Wire. Let me just type that in and see what happens. Yeah, I could probably find something that'll represent reinforcement for concrete. Here we go. Now see, this guy has gone through the trouble of, and you can look at these models, you can spin them around. This is pretty cool. So I'll just download this guy's work, and thank you. I'll thank you. Load directly in, yes. Okay, so now, even though he's left it kind of messy, I'll put it over here, and we'll go in and edit it, and delete all these construction lines around it. One of the neat things about the SketchUp eraser is you can just hold your left mouse button down and select a bunch of stuff at one time and delete it. But what I'm looking for is here, this welded wire. I'm just going to grab it and copy it over here. We'll see what it looks like. Now this rebar that you're seeing here would be in your footing. These two pieces that go around the edge. And I may show those, but I did take some time to draw all this stuff, and I'm trying to do this in a timely manner, which is actually not working out, but anyway. So what we would do here is these sheets of welded wire come, I think they're 6 feet wide and 15 or 20 feet long, but we'll just pretend like we're going to put it in our slab here. We're going to scale it. We're just going to take it, move it out to there, and then over here somewhere, there it is, there. The welded wire, you don't want it to be out to the edge. You actually want it to be at least 3 inches away. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this and go back, and we're going to say 6. Oops. Let's see, what would that be? We'll just make it 0.9. I forgot I was scaling right there. Then we'll move it back a little bit this way, and then we'll just move it sort of in the center of the slab. There we go. So now what we're going to do is move it down. We can grab this point as a reference over here and still use that as a reference. So now we got the welded wire in the center of our slab. One thing you can do, and I showed this in another video, I'm going to reference it. If you wanted to go through the trouble of building a ledge along this wall, you can put a pan to pour the concrete on, and that would be cheaper than filling up this whole thing with gravel. Oh, you know, it might be about the same, because you could probably get a load of gravel. Well, it depends on how big your porch is. For about $300, $325 around here, you can get a tandem load of gravel and fill this whole thing up, and then just pour the concrete on top of it. Or you can get, let's type in concrete pan and see if they have it readily available. There's floor deck. See what it looks like. We'll pull it in. Don't look like a lot of detail. The only thing about these, well, oh, look there. Yeah, they do have it. It's underneath it. There we go. I think how we could get to this is just, you think they made it big enough? That's the only thing about it. You don't know what you're going to get when you download other people's work. But if we explode that, and then we delete that, top. Here we go. That was supposed to have been their concrete layer that I just deleted. But basically, it's a metal pan that would support the weight of the concrete until it sets up. And then once the concrete's set up, it would be its own structural piece. Okay, so I took a little time here to bring this pan in because I wanted to kind of entertain the idea of using this pan instead of filling this all in with gravel, because you may be in a location where either it's expensive to haul the gravel or whatever, so this may be a decent alternative. So let's just assume that we've got our line across here, we've got our our concrete block up, and we're going to run a steel angle across here, which would be, let's just call it 3 inches by 3 inches. So that would come down like this. And I know this video is kind of long, but the other thing I'm trying to do is show you how this software works at the same time, how SketchUp works. That would be about a 1/4 inch thick, let's just say. So I'm going to pull it out here and I'm just going to type in 1/4. Okay. Now if you zoom in, you can see it there. It would also be 3 inches. It would be an L shape, right? So it would stick out 3 inches this way. Let's just take our rectangle tool for this one, and we'll snap to this corner. Then we'll zoom out, and we'll go all the way to this corner, and we'll put it there. And so then it would be a 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going to take it down, and again I'm just going to drag it whatever length, then type in 1/4. Then I'm going to get rid of this little line right here that I don't need anymore. And you can see we just created ourselves an angle shelf there that would be bolted to the house. And you might want to run lag bolts in that thing every 12 inches or something, depending on what your structure is there. Because the only bad part about this is that is going to be now supporting this, unless you decide to run the concrete block wall along there too, which is an option. And again, you may decide, nah, I'm just going to fill this with gravel. But if you're going to do this, then you'd run your pan over to that point, set it on top of that, and then you'd bring your wire mesh over. It would be in the concrete, but it would be hovering above the pan. And then you would pour your concrete over that. You'd still have a form around the edges, and you'd want this to be back. If I was going to select my pan, I would select all these ends. I'll select all of the ends like that, and then I'm going to pull them back about 3 inches so that they're not, you don't see them, something like that. And then your concrete, because you don't want that metal, you don't want any kind of metal in your concrete near the edge, because it will rust out and bleed out. So now let's take this concrete slab and put it back. There. And of course you can see now our wire mesh is kind of stuck up near the top. I'll lower it just a little bit just to get rid of it. Move it down a 1/2 inch. So there you go. So without making this video 20 hours long, let's see, how can I jump ahead to the next important thing would be how we flash along this wall. The other thing I wanted to mention right quick too is that this slab, if you don't have anything to cover this slab, you don't want water running back to the house. So it wouldn't really hurt if you put about 3/4 of an inch of fall. So if we were just to grab this line and move it up, you just got to make sure you're grabbing the right stuff when you're. There we go. Now I'm going to move it up 3/4 of an inch, and that's really not much. Not much that you can really see, but if you've got an overhang on this house and water's falling off and dripping on it, you want the water to run this way, not back towards your doors or your siding. So the flashing issue. Let's pull our slab back again, and So I'm going to grab it. I'm going to find me a reference point somewhere. I'm just going to pull it back, about 4 feet for now, and then I can move it back later. So really, if you were going to use a pan, I'd recommend putting your flashing on first. So let's pull the pan back so we can see our work that we want to do on our flashing. And just for the fun of it, we'll pull that silly looking welded wire back so we can see too. So now you can see we're back to our ledge, our angle here. And again, you really want to make sure, I would really kind of recommend filling this up with gravel if you're not sure about the structural qualities of being able to support the slab with an angle along this wall. Unless you can bolt this into good structure, whether it's your foundation, you'd want through bolts going all the way through. If it was concrete block, you don't want to play around with this. If you're questioning that at all, just go ahead and fill this thing up with gravel. I was just trying to give you an alternative here. But in any event, let's create a thin flashing here. I'm just going to go out here in space, and I'm going to create an L shape flashing. What I'm going to do is I'll draw it on here. That'll give me a little thing. So I'm going to come out 4 inches. Let's zoom in on this. We're just going to make it a 4x4 L. Okay. And it's going to have a thickness. It's not going to be 1/16 of an inch thick, okay? But I'm going to draw it a 1/16 of an inch thick so you can see what we're doing here, and it just helps to give it a little thickness. Okay, so I'm gonna, when you're drawing details, it's easier to see if something has thickness. So what I'm going to do now is just grab that and make a group. Okay, now I can work with it. If I double click on it, I don't have to worry about all this other stuff, around it. So I'm going to pull this up. And I know this flashing is going to be at least 24 feet long, so I'm just going to pull it out 24 feet. Now we have this big, long piece of flashing. And of course, most flashings only come in 10-foot lengths. What I would recommend is a 24 gauge minimum paint grip galvanized. Let's see, why is that doing that? Oh, I know why. Because I don't want to be editing the group when I rotate it. What I'm trying to do now is just get it in a position where I can put it on the house. So now I'm just going to grab this and we'll rotate this 90 degrees. Oops. Yeah, that wasn't 90. There we go. And now we'll pull it up here, put it down there, and then go work with it again when we can see it. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that flashing all the way out to here. Let me get that all the way on top of the there. So what that's going to do is that's going to force any water, get rid of my blue lines, that's going to force any water that comes down and gets on that out and over the foundation or gravel, whatever's down here. Okay, so now actually this flashing is going to need to be about, let's call it 10 inches tall. So what I need to do is edit this, and I just realized I'm under the slab, so I need to add that 4 inches. Gotta be careful here when I'm grabbing. What I'm going to do is go back to this parallel projection, so that when I'm looking at it, I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to raise this up 6 inches. like that. So now my flashing is a good, it doesn't necessarily have to be this tall. What I'm trying to get you to do is get it up 3 or 4 inches above the concrete, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to put this back on perspective because it's freaking me out. And so now we've got our flashing on there, and then we're going to run our pan back over like that. We'll run our wire. We'll grab our wire, move it back over, and then we'll grab our slab. I remember I moved it 4 feet, so if I just go down here and grab a point that's relative to that, 48, it'll go back. And now you can see I've got, whoops, what's going on here? Dog it. I didn't edit the whole. Let me raise this up 6 inches. There we go. Now it's not an angled piece of flashing. I didn't grab these 2 little lines, this little line right here, when I raised the other end up. So now I've got a piece of flashing all the way down. Let's go ahead and make us a piece of siding to show how our siding is going to lap over our flashing, and I'll show you kind of where it needs to be in relation to the flashing. So anyway, I'm going to draw a piece of siding here. I'm going to make it 3/8 of an inch thick. I'll also make it 8 inches tall, and we'll just consider it a piece of hardy siding. And I'll just take my little rectangle tool, and I'm going to make that a group. And so now I can work on it. Get rid of these construction lines. You noticed I didn't select them when I was making the group. So now I'm going to make this piece of siding, I don't know, for now, let's just call it 6 feet long for now. Okay, so, oops, don't do that, Tony. So what I'm going to do now is just pull this siding over here. We know that this flashing is going to cause this to bevel a little bit, so what I'm going to do is take my protractor tool, and I'm going to say, okay, that right there is going to be leaning on that. But we want to bring this up at least 1/4 of an inch off of the concrete, because what we're going to do is we're going to fill that 1/4 inch with sealant. That'll be your first line of protection, okay? And then if that sealant fails, then your flashing will pick it up, okay? We're going to grab this piece of siding right here, and if I hold my control key down and I select it in SketchUp, I can make another piece of siding, which is handy. And I'm going to put it right here first, but then I'm going to lap it 1 inch like that, see? So, and I could just keep going like that. Now I have a reference point for that one. I can just grab it right here and reference that piece and go back up here and put it there on that one. There would be a corner board here, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's that. You can see now water will run down the siding, and it doesn't really matter. You got yourself a little pitch on the concrete. Water's going to run down, pitch off. You're going to have really nice commercial grade sealant here. You won't see that because it'll be painted, and all is happy. Okay. Now there's going to be one more condition you're going to have, which is at a door, and I'm going to show you how to do the flashing for the door. When you put this concrete patio in, you should leave a margin here of about 1 inch where your door is. I'm going to put our door up here for a second, just so I can make sure I've got it. I'm not. Oh, that's right. I never gave this wall a volume, did I? Let's give this. Let's say our wall's 6 inches thick. There's my offset tool. Here we go. we'll make our wall 6 inches thick, and then we'll push this down to there. Okay, now we have a house. And we have a real house. Now when I push this, I can go back. You see where it says on the face? I'm on the face of the inside wall, and bing. As soon as I let go, it will cut that opening in automatically for me. So now what I can do, I'm just going to try to represent this. I'm going to pull this down to right about there. Let's see. Let's put a floor in here, just so that let's bring this back up to there. Okay, we'll call that our subfloor. Okay, so now you can see the bottom of the door, the rough opening of the door, is above the concrete. And let me go back. So what I need to do is when I was putting in my flashing, this L flashing that goes behind the siding, I needed to cut it out for the door. And I'll show you that right now. We'll just take it, I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go over here and pull some lines out there, pull one little line there, and go over to the other side of the door, the other side of the little door, and cut it out there. See if I can get on the right plane. Then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to take this down to that level right there. Okay, so that represents me cutting out that flashing. Now I'm going to take and make another piece of flashing that I'm going to show you that really should go under the door. I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to copy it, we'll bring it over here, and let's turn it flat. First of all, grab our little protractor. That's not the protractor, it's the orbit. The rotate tool. Sorry, I've been calling it the protractor. There's another tool that's the protractor. So I'm going to take the rotate tool, and I'm going to turn this around 180 degrees. Okay, now you can see what I'm starting to do here. I think I'm going to make this about 2 feet 9. I think is what my rough opening was, 2 feet 9. And I'm going to draw this, that, and then, sorry, I'm going through this a little bit of a painstaking process just so you can get a feel for, SketchUp is easy to work with, but it's still a little bit of work, I'm going to hold down my mouse key, my shift key, to make that stay on the plane I want it in. Then I'm going to draw a line straight down from there. Okay, now that I've got those lines in there, I can just grab all this other stuff and whack it off like I'm cutting it with a saw. I'm going to delete all this other stuff, and you'll see what I'm doing here in a second. Just bear with me. And what I do is I have these flashings made by a local company. They're custom flashings that we use, and any kind of sheet metal shop can make these. Mine is the Roofing and Supply Company, and what I'm going to do is I have this lapping over an inch. Let's see, what was that? That's 3, so I'm going to go up about 2 inches. Okay, so what you want to have when you're done is a piece of flashing. I'm calling it sill flashing, that's going to go in your in the bottom of the door, and it should be about 4. How much is this? It should be about 5 inches. So we'll just pull this back to that line. I'm going to snap on that little point right there, and I'm going to use my little hand tool to get me over here where I'm going, and my orbit tool to get me lined up here, exit out of that. And now what I'm going to do is place it right there. Does that make sense? So it's on top of the subfloor, and it's lapping over that piece of flashing. Now if you can't do this, if you can't get this piece of flashing in, or it's just you don't think it's practical for you, it's fine. I'm just showing you how we do it at Artisan Construction. And then we would seal this again. So if water wants to back up under your door, you've got very good positive flashing there. And what we'll also do is take a piece of this membrane tape and wrap this corner right here. And I'm not going to show you that. That's getting a little too whacked out. So anyway, this just gives you an idea of all the different details you can use to really secure the house against this concrete. And I mean, one last thing, really, honestly, you should use an asphalt impregnated expansion joint to bring this slab off of the house about a half-inch. And then you there's this zip cap that you can use for that. And what it does is it's a plastic cap, and before you put your siding and everything on, you take and pull that cap off, that zip cap, and it makes a little plastic channel for you then to lay your caulk in all along there. Okay, so you've got caulk there, you've got sealant here, you've got flashing. You're going to be an artisan before you know it. One of the neat things about SketchUp is it has this tool, this section tool, and you can place it there and then grab it like this until it turns, when it turns blue. Then you can move it through the project to kind of see where, you just choose a point like that, and then you could set up your drawings for details. See. And at this point, this is where your perspectives come in handy, these little buttons up here, and then you turn this into parallel projection, you see, and now it starts to look like a set of construction drawings. You can set those up in your drawing to where they're either on or off. You can go up here and turn view section planes off, and you can control how your drawings look that way. You can even turn the section cut off for particular views that you want to set up. If anybody has any particular questions about anything else, I can do a part 2 if you want me to. I know this was a very long video, like I said, but I wanted to show all these. I could have just drawn this in advance and said, oh, here it is, or I can kind of show you how to use the software a little bit as we go along too. Now I also have a video about laying out stairs in SketchUp. It shows you how to build the stairs and how we draw them in SketchUp at the same time. So if you have a set of wood steps that's coming off of this, that would show you how. But something like this, you might want to, since it's so close to the ground, you might want to form it up and actually pour concrete steps, which would be nice. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching. I know the video is long, and like I said, if you have any other requests for these kinds of things, I appreciate it. I like doing these videos, and now that I have this new software, Tiny Take, if you'll look in the description, I'll if you want to help me out, and it's free software. If you download it and log in with this link I'll put in the description, it allows me to have more recording time, and I don't have to keep doing these different takes and then blending them together. That's what I'm having to do now. So that's why the video may seem a little choppy, because I've only got like 10 minutes at a time to do the different takes, and then I have to kind of bring them all together in an editor and go from there. So anyway, I really appreciate it, guys, and thanks a lot. Nice.